us this evening. That's the first thing we want to say, and that we know, although we all have the same 168 hours in every week, some of us have more to fill in those than others, and I know for sure that our pastors and our principals are some of the busiest people I know, and certainly anybody in development knows there's more hours or more tasks that we would like to fill with than actually time allows for, but we welcome you all tonight for being here, and we want to be respectful of your time, so we're going to get started. My name is Renee DeRoche, and here in my part-time role, I serve as Catholic School Advancement Coordinator under the leadership of our Department of Stewardship and Development Executive Director, Terry Gedzinski. Terry currently wears two hats in our diocese, as she also serves as the Executive Director of the Upper Peninsula Catholic Foundation. Supporting us here this evening with her many multi-talented skills is Angelina Judici. Angie is our Administrative Assistant of the Department of Stewardship and Development. And I think at this point, I would like to turn it over and ask Ren if he, let me tell you a little bit about. Ren Hain is the Development Director at St. Albert the Great University Parish, located up in Houghton. And he also serves as a member of our UP Catholic Foundation Board of Directors and has graciously agreed to offer a welcome message this evening after he leads us in our opening prayer, which is our diocesan prayer for the formation of Spirit-filled evangelizers. We would also like to welcome Father Corey Linster and Mark Salisbury tonight. I think most people know them. Since we're a small group, I just thought I'd welcome them as well. So, Ren, would you like to start us off this evening?
Sure. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
O Holy Spirit, come into my life and my heart. By the fire of your love, transform me in all Catholics, throughout Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and the Spirit-filled evangelizers. I pray that more and more people come to know the love of Jesus Christ and make a personal decision to follow him. I pray for all the people that I know who are not practicing any faith. Touch their hearts with your love, O Holy Spirit. Work through me so that they may have a personal encounter with Jesus Christ and follow him in faith. To you, O Holy Spirit, and to the Father, and to the Son, be glory forever and ever. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
All right. I'd like to welcome everybody as a member of the board of the UP Catholic Foundation. It's exciting to be here to kick off this initiative. On a personal note, my wife and I have two little boys that we're hoping to send to Catholic schools in the next couple of years as they get old enough. So the long-term sustainability of Catholic schools hits close to home for me. The mission of the UP Catholic Foundation is to connect faith with charitable giving through long-term support of Catholic ministries in our diocese. So partnering with Bishop John to boost the endowment building for our Catholic schools was a no-brainer because distinctively Catholic endowment building is what the UP Catholic Foundation does. Our Catholic schools are a fantastic tool for our parishes to evangelize families and educate informed students, and securing their long-term financial stability is vital. The challenge that we're here to talk about is that each school has to raise some money to receive a generous $100,000 gift for its endowment, and what a great thing that'll be for the long-term financial sustainability of our schools. Thank you for joining us for this kickoff meeting, and we're excited to work in partnership with all of you and our shared mission to hand on the Catholic faith. And with that, I'll turn over to Renee.
Thank you so much, Ren. Appreciate it. We're going to be switching now to the view where you can follow along the slides. Once we get it out of my notes view there into the full screen. But we're going to begin with our agenda tonight, and I'll tell you just a little bit about that. There we go. Next slide will have the agenda, I think. We're going to begin with our goals, and there's three major challenge goals that we have. We've covered that, and we've done our prayer. There we go. So there's going to be a lot of helpful templates and tools that you're going to be given. There's a leadership handbook that we've been busy putting together, along with a flash drive, which each school will be receiving shortly. And just one housekeeping note as we begin about asking questions. We invite you to use the chat feature of Zoom to send in any questions as you think of them, or else jot them down on a pad of paper and a note and be ready to share them when we get to the Q&A part of the presentation near the end. You may find out that your answer becomes apparent as we move forward, or else we'll cover it during that time we have allotted. We will also go over what to expect next after tonight's kickoff, along with giving you the contact information for all of us here on our diocesan and foundation team who are supporting you. So let's look at challenge goals next. This initiative seeks to accomplish 3 important goals. There we go, thanks. To continue an annual stream to the schools in place of the previous distributions from diocesan unrestricted funds. In the future, some unrestricted funds will be placed into endowments with each school benefiting, and the funds in this challenge endowment will be permanently dedicated to each of you in the financial support of your school. Your particular school will have its own permanently endowed fund. In the past, that has not been the case. To help schools, number 2, establish or grow a permanent endowment that will manage their operating costs over the long term. We know that schools that have an endowment and can count on a steady income streams have less fluctuation in the needs and worries of the year-to-year operations. So these endowments will provide annual funding for each school, and you are assured a payout from the UPCF beginning in July 2019. Terry will cover some other details in a little while. And the third goal is to help schools identify, cultivate, and foster stewardship among long-term leadership donors. This is perhaps one of the great benefits of any campaign, because endowment building is different than annual fundraising. It's a forever investment in the mission of your school. For some of you, it may be a first opportunity to ask for major gifts, and we want to help you to identify those endowment prospects, cultivate them for long-term support of your mission, and foster excellent stewardship of the donor and their gift for the long term. Terry's going to talk about some parameters here of this exciting endeavor next.
All right, I'm going to review the 11 parameters that are on the terms and guidelines sheet that you received for the Catholic School Endowment Challenge. I'll perhaps go into a little bit more detail with them tonight. The first one is that endowments for this challenge will all be held within the Upper Peninsula Catholic Foundation. And the second parameter is that the endowment funds must have a broad purpose that supports the school. So the broad purpose will be the most beneficial for schools because it provides flexibility to future leaders. No matter what the needs are of the school in the future, those broad funds will help the school. So the broad purpose serves the school well for many generations to come. Now the third parameter gives you some choices to make as you plan for your endowment. Option 1 is to add to an existing fund in the UP Catholic Foundation. We do have 2 schools that have existing funds there. And those schools, if that fund is a broad purpose, we ask them to raise a minimum of $10,000 in new gifts to add to that existing fund and encourage them to raise more. Option 2 is to start a new fund in the UP Catholic Foundation. With that option, schools are also asked to fundraise a minimum of $10,000 in new gifts to establish the fund and are encouraged to raise more. And when that happens, a fund agreement will be created for the fund that sets out the purpose of the fund and other important items. And also a local advisory committee is formed by the school to assure that the purpose of the fund is understood and followed. The third option is for schools to move an existing endowed fund into the UP Catholic Foundation. If you have an existing fund with a broad purpose, you could choose to move it in if you wish. And with this option, we ask schools to raise a minimum of $5,000 in new gifts and of course encourage them to raise more. And a fund agreement will be created that maintains the original intent of that fund. And an advisory committee is of course formed by the school to assure the long-term purpose is understood and followed. All right, parameter number 4 is that schools will have flexibility and assistance in setting their campaign goal and planning their campaign in a manner that maximizes their fundraising potential. You'll want to plan carefully, however. Setting a minimum $10,000 goal might seem like the easiest to achieve, but the challenge is to consider the bigger vision for your endowment. The challenge is how to best use this opportunity to grow your endowment. These relate directly to the goals of this initiative. Remember, goal number 1 was to continue the annual income stream, and goal number 2 is to grow the endowment. So you'll want to weigh the options carefully and make a plan to achieve your goals. And the important thing with this parameter is that if you plan carefully and you solicit wisely, the goals can be within reach. Now, the 5th parameter is a $500 minimum gift solicitation is suggested. So there's 2 reasons for this. This does 2 things. Number 1, it activates major gifts by raising the bar. And number 2, it distinguishes your endowment campaign from your annual fundraising. You also might consider a gift cap as well. And this will help to maximize the number of donors that you can acquire with this challenge. Remember, this brings in goal number 3, which was to cultivate and foster stewardship of donors for the long term. So if it only takes 1 or 2 donors to reach your goal, that probably means your goal was too low. If you set your goal higher, you can say thank you when you receive those gifts of $5,000 or $10,000, and then confidently continue toward your campaign goal to maximize the incentive that this challenge gift creates for your donors. Parameter number 6 has to do with the leadership kits that Renee mentioned. We'll provide those on a jump drive for you. They're going to be full of helpful resources to support your campaign. Things like campaign committee responsibilities, a campaign flyer that you can customize with your own school name and photographs, and letter templates that can be used as is or tweaked to your liking. What we've done is try to reduce your preparation time so that you can get right down to the business of having meaningful and compelling solicitation visits with your prospective donors. And that is the most important thing that you will do in this campaign. And we're on to parameter number 7. I just wanted to talk briefly about the role of the UP Catholic Foundation. So the benefit of the foundation is that parishes and schools can enjoy stewardship of endowed funds without the work of endowment administration. The role of the UPCF is to develop with you a fund agreement that sets out the purpose of the fund. We'll provide bylaws for your local advisory group for your fund. And right away, we'll set up an online giving account for your fund. And that might be particularly attractive to your school if you feel like you have limited capacity or staffing, because that online giving account will enable you to simply instruct donors to use an easy, secure online giving mechanism. They can set up recurring payments if they want to make a gift over time. Parameter number 8. Cash received into your fund qualifies for the challenge gift. So payment of the challenge gift from the diocese will be made directly into your fund. The timing of that will be a window between November 1, 2018 and December 31, 2018. And every participating school will receive their challenge gift from the diocese during that period of time. We hope to time it with when you meet your goal. But even if you don't meet your goal, by that time, you'll be receiving that gift into your fund. All right, parameter number 9. You can expect your first distribution from UPCF in July of 2019. The annual distributions are calculated on the December 31 fund balance. So we can only assure your July 2019 distribution if we get the challenge gift into your fund by December 31. So you might be asking, how much can you expect to receive? Well, of course, that all depends on your fund balance at December 31. The spending policy of the UPCF uses a 5-year rolling average to smooth out the distributions and preserve fund balance. So your distribution will increase every year. The latest spending was set at 4.5%. So as an example, a fund balance of $110,000 would have resulted in a distribution of $4,141. So remember here, the diocese has already promised each school one more gift from unrestricted funds, and that will be $5,000 in January of 2019. Plus, you'll receive the first distribution from the UP Catholic Foundation in July of 2019. So the 2 payments will come in the same calendar year, but they're going to cross over fiscal years there. And then from there on out, you'll receive a payment from the UPCF each July. Parameter number 10 is leadership commitment. We really hope that each school will make a leadership commitment to this challenge. We're encouraging the school pastors and principals to mutually agree to be involved in and support the challenge initiative. It's one thing for a single school to decide it's going to conduct an endowment campaign, but it's quite another thing for all of us to do it together. The partnership between the diocese, the UPCF, the 9 schools, and all of their supporting parishes is going to produce a synergy. The rising tide lifts all ships. That energy and enthusiasm creates a favorable fundraising environment. All of us working together creates a vision for endowment building, which is needed for the long-term viability of our schools. And finally, the 11th parameter, I'm happy to announce that a diocesan-wide Catholic Schools Endowment Fund has recently been established with a $10,000 gift from the diocese. This fund helps all of our schools in 2 ways. One, by receiving gifts from donors who wish to support a diocesan-wide vision for Catholic education, and 2, by providing distributions to all schools in equal portions. Keep in mind that our main priority in this initiative is to help each school grow its own endowment. The purpose of the diocesan-wide fund is not to compete with your individual endowment building, but to meet the needs of various donors to give in a way that benefits all schools. Because of our long history of legacy of faith endowment building, we know we have people that highly value Catholic education, but don't have a Catholic school in their local community. So this fund may more appropriately serve their needs than the 9 different school endowments will. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Renee.
I know you're wondering, after all those parameters, well, tell us, how do we get started? You're doing the first thing tonight. You're attending this kickoff meeting so that you can get the information and not have to have it secondhand. We've set up the training in such a way that the leadership kits will actually have access to the handouts and the entire presentation tonight, so that as you build and put together your campaign committees, you're able to have them understand it with all these various different nuances, and nobody has to be getting it a little mixed up or a little watered down. So we've tried to look at that. One of our challenges here in the UP, we know, is our 300-mile radius, but it's also God's one of his most beautiful gifts to us if we look around and realize that we're in a place that isn't so compact and faced with the heavy burdens of population on it. So it's kind of a double thing that we work with there. We want you to know that once you've appointed your campaign committee, and there are resources in your packet for that, you need to determine a best option for going forward. So you're going to have this group together. Again, we said no principal and no pastor has the time to do it alone, but you're going to find people that either have an affinity for your mission. You're going to have people that maybe know and work with people of some degree of influence or ability to give these type of gifts. And we want to help you reach out and ensure that those relationships grow deeper and stronger for many years to come. So there will be options that take you along with your purpose statement, which needs to be included in your customizable documents for your presentation folders. You need to establish your fundraising goal, which by looking at it from a couple different perspectives that we offered you tonight, you're going to find yourselves ready for number 2 here, which is to submit your application. It can be done anytime, but needs to be done by June 1st. So this gives everybody almost a month and a half to get together with your campaign committee, get some of those first things ironed out. Some of the examples, it's not a long or hard application. It's really simple on the JOT form, just pull down menu types. So we're going to ask you, to fill in your school name, who's going to be the main contact for your campaign, what your goal is, the purpose and name of your new fund. Once we get that in here, it'll be a very quick turnaround time. When you get your final approval back, you will be able to begin soliciting at that time. You don't have to wait any further. We want you to begin all your applications as quickly as possible so that you receive your notification and begin fundraising for your school's endowment, at least by August 1st. Let's look at that timeline here. We're calling it 8 short months from the kickoff through the end of the year. So in your pre-campaign planning, which is where we are tonight, you're going to be picking Blue Ribbon Challenge Committee members. A good number to have together is maybe 5 to 7, those who are really committed and highly value that Catholic education. You're going to maybe have 10 people thrown out on the table of possibilities. We want you to select your best and look for a variety of skills and talents. Now, somebody might be very able to be verbal, but somebody else is very well organized and can support the committee in that fashion. So you might have different skills around the table. This becomes apparent when you go out in 2x2 visiting, that you can pair up people with the connections and the skills to make the best possible ask. You're going to review the leadership kit that you'll be getting in just a couple days and be able to start customizing your materials. We'll show you some examples of that here as we complete today's presentation. They all have very simple formatting, Word, where you simply need to pop in names of, say, your principal, your pastor, your school name, and they are very professionally ready to use, that you don't have to think about putting anything together. It's going to be all there for you. Something you're going to start tonight is to begin building your prospect list, which are best bets for immediate gifts, building cultivation and soliciting plans for each prospect, because we know that every major gift prospect deserves their own campaign. You're going to think a little bit ahead of time before you go out on that gift visit, and you probably will want to pray before you go into and ask the Holy Spirit to be with us as we ask for support. We want you to consider that all committee members make their gift commitment before asking others. This is considered a best practice for any campaign and demonstrates sincere belief on the part of the asker. I myself have been involved in nonprofit fundraising for over 30 years now, and it's one of the first steps that I do with any campaign I'm involved with, because when I go out on a visit, I want to be able to say from my heart, I have already given a gift because this is a cause that I truly believe in. And when I was hired here and I was able to say, I have 12 years of parochial education that I am forever grateful for, it is sincerely a part of who I am today and what I value and what my family values as well. So it'll be, this is an easy one for me to say that I want to truly give it and be a part of it as you all are partners in it too. So by June 1st, you're going to submit that online JOT form and then talk about your teams. Teams of 2 making personal calls and visiting prospects in person to make the ask, not via a phone call, not via a letter, will achieve their goals the quickest. Terry's going to talk about strategies that work and why an endowment campaign is different than an annual campaign.
So this next slide just gives you a snapshot of some of the main differences between endowment asking and annual fund asking. The point of this slide is that they're different, so we use different strategies and techniques that align accordingly. One of the most important things I want to say is that this endowment campaign is going to be over and above your annual campaign. So we hope that all of our schools are doing those annual funds. You need to keep doing them. And then this endowment piece will be over and above that. It's important to keep doing what you're doing now for the current needs of the school. So I'll just briefly go over some of these. Endowment fundraising is really based on the future. You're creating a vision of what the future could look like with the gifts that you hope to receive, versus an annual fund, which is really focused on current needs of the school, maintenance, operational purposes. Endowments are focused on the tip of the pyramid, which are those few donors that give the largest amount of gifts, versus annual fund, where you really focus on the base of the pyramid and get many gifts from many people. Endowments typically have a larger stretch goal versus your annual fund, which is more moderate. Endowments involve face-to-face fundraising, that team of 2, versus annual funds, which are typically just direct mail pieces. Endowments have a sequential solicitation. So Renee touched on this a little bit when she suggested that your committee members make their gift first before going out and asking others for gifts. So the sequence is those closest in the inner circle of your school give first. So that might be your key stakeholders in the schools, some of the employees. Then you move outward from that inner circle to perhaps alumni, and friends. The farther out you get, the less connection the people have to the school. Versus an annual fund where you're really soliciting everyone at once. It's not so sequential. An endowment is a perfect vehicle to receive planned gifts to versus annual fund, which is typically cash gifts. And with the endowment, what we're really working toward is the person's commitment to give versus annual, which is immediate gifts. Now, that's not to say we don't need immediate gifts with the endowment. In this case, we do. We have that 8-month short window, so we do need some cash gifts up front. But remember goal 3, to cultivate and steward those donors. We hope to get their commitment to support the school financially over a long period of time. And back to Renee for some more strategies.
So we've planned, we've understood the differences. Now we're going to get ready to make the ask. These are listed in the hierarchy of effectiveness. So we've already discussed face-to-face teams of 2 have the best source of getting a yes, of getting a commitment. For instance, if I'm there and I'm going on a call with Mark and we've made an appointment and we're visiting with Terry and we're sitting down over a cup of coffee, I could ask in a very weak, general way, gee, Terry, I really believe in this cause and I hope you join me. Do you think that might be possible? And she's probably, not going to be real excited about that way that I just presented to her. But if I said, Terry, I deeply believe in Catholic education. I've already made my personal commitment with a gift that's significant. And I'm wondering if you could commit to $1,000 this year too.
Absolutely. I promised you last night and I promised you again tonight.
Wonderful. And I assure you that there are people in your communities that are waiting to be asked. There is a segment of our population that grew up in Depression era or in times when affluence wasn't as easy as we have it in many homes and spheres today. But they do believe in giving a gift that will give forever. They want to know that the school that they're giving to or the mission they're giving to is going to live out way beyond them. So this is a person that perhaps has children or grandchildren, and they want to know with certainty that their gift is going to continue giving. An endowment fund is perfect for those intentions because once a gift is given to the endowment, that will stay in the corpus and not be touched. And it is only the distributions or earnings on it that will continue to grow and give the school an income stream. So there will be people that this is very appealing to. And I can tell you again from experience, I have met those kind of people, and I had thought about asking for a $5,000 to $10,000 gift and have come away with 50. Now I tried hard not to show them that I was doing a happy dance on the way out and just look everything calm and cool. But it does happen, and I would be very surprised if somebody in the next 8 months doesn't come to us with that kind of revelation that they've had as well. So the next most effective is gathering a small group. Now you can do this a number of ways. You can have a group of common interests, so perhaps you've got some health teams, families that you know of that are having those common interests. You might invite them to a coffee or pie social at your home or at the rectory. You might have tea and cookies being hosted by some teachers. Whatever feels comfortable and right for you is what works best. I'm suggesting this not be a gymnasium type event. You want to have a personal relationship. You want to have that opportunity to make a face-to-face ask. So you don't want to have a group larger than a dozen or so because you won't be able to, in a fair amount of time of an hour and a half, be able to have and develop those relationships. Tributes are the third one, and these are very popular. In the past, we've had a number of memorials, and a number of our schools already have endowments, and they were given through memorial gifts. But today we see gaining in popularity more and more is an honorary tribute for someone who is still living. You've heard many people get a wonderful eulogy, and somebody would say, gee, I wish they'd say that about me before I'm gone so that I can enjoy the moment and know what I really meant to people in their lives. Well, this is where an honorary tribute is a beautiful thing. So an example could be a retired principal or administrator, or perhaps it's an admired teacher who has many years of service at your school, and people want to honor them in this special way as far as a tribute goes. Special events could include someone celebrating a significant birthday or anniversary. Anything that ends in a 0 or a 5 is a good bet. So for instance, you've got a wonderful alum or grandmother of an alum who's turning 90 and really doesn't want the party, but the family wants to honor her. And she desperately says, no gifts, but how about a tribute that honors her for her faith and her example in the family? Or perhaps it's a couple celebrating a 50th Jubilee. I've met many that said, we don't want guests because we don't want gifts. There's nothing we need. But a beautiful tribute gift to the school and to honor their Catholic faith as a living memorial or living, tribute is a great gift and a great way to go. You can also plan to have your ask be successful by bringing with and planning to leave your prospect your school's solicitation folder. It's going to contain customized pieces along with the support materials we will give you as well. So some of those are in our folders that you'll be getting, these leadership solicitation folders. The leadership kit is on the jump drives in here. We have a customizable brochure, which you are going to be encouraged to put your own pictures popped in. And wherever there is a yellow highlight, that is where you're going to just insert your particular school's information. So names, addresses, school name, again, so they're ready for you. They're made easily with a tear-off gift response. People get to choose options. It's always a good idea to give people options of how they can participate and support you. And there's also a group of support materials. For instance, the Upper Peninsula Catholic Foundation is a fairly new resource here in the diocese and foundation. So we've included a brochure about that. We've included, and I'm going to talk a little bit later, I think, about the letter of leadership from our bishop in cooperation with the president, Pat Rudden. So we're going to be looking at those things in there. Terry's going to talk about how you identify prospects, and this is the most exciting part, I think, of the whole evening.
The part you've all been waiting for. And hopefully this is going to be your most valuable takeaway from tonight's meeting, because you're going to make your own list of some initial prospects. So I'm going to ask in the next 2.5 minutes that you have a pencil and paper handy. And I saw Father Corey walk in without that, so I conveniently put one right there for you. So if you have multiple people from your school here tonight, each of you should do this exercise independently, because it will be good to compare notes afterwards. And think of listing the first name or two that comes to mind. Don't worry about if they're a good prospect at this point. These are just, everything goes. Everything is on the table, just getting you started. It's also okay to list a name more than one time. And you can always go back to this later. And before we get started, just a word here about confidentiality. Just a reminder that all the information about our prospects and their gifts is handled with respect and with confidentiality. So these are your lists for you to use with your committee. Once you put your committee together, you may want to repeat this exercise with them. And between all of you, you can identify your prospect list. So if you want to not look at the screen and just listen to my statement and then write down some names, I'll pause a little bit in between each one. So number 1, name your most enthusiastic school supporter.
Just keep writing.
Everybody's writing Mark's name down. Number 2, name a group that supports the school. So a group might be somebody like an alumni group, or a group from your parish, or the Knights of Columbus. Number 3, name a person that you think can give $500 or more. Number 4, name a person that has given $1,000 or more to your school. Number 5, list a local family with several generations that could join together to make one major family gift. You're halfway there. Number 6, Name a Catholic school supporter that is near a milestone birthday or anniversary. Number 7, name a current school donor who gives $300 or more annually. Number 8, name a person who has mentioned legacy giving to you. Number 9, name a regular, consistent giver to your parish Ash Wednesday collection. That would be the Catholic Schools collection. And the last one, name a retired Catholic school teacher or administrator. So I hope all of you got at least 10 names down, even if they're not 10 different names. So reminder, keep your list, go back to it later during your planning, repeat it with your campaign committee, and look for your overlap in the names. And keep thinking about these 10 statements you might add to the list as time goes on.
And those are only puncturing, right?
They are,
Okay.
yes.
Mhm.
And back to Renee for what to expect next.
All right, we will be making follow-up calls with the pastors and principals. You can be expecting your kit in the mail within just a couple days. They will be going out tomorrow. They will also have a sample solicitation folder in it, one of these that you're seeing here in front of me. So you'll be getting a phone call within 1 week from today. That means if you see the diocese come up on your dialing tone, don't hang up on Terry or I, because we're going to call you back again. I can assure you. Then we want to make a site visit. We want to come out to you. We want to deliver some additional folders for you. We want to offer you options for personalized assistance. Some of you may be ready to fly with a great staff member or perhaps a volunteer that is really familiar with using kinds of marketing materials and things that we're going to be sharing. And you don't need much, but others may. So whatever it is you need, we want to be there available to help you in any way that you request it. So Terry's going to talk about what the UPCF is going to be able to do.
So the UPCF will set up your fund and create an online giving account for your fund upon approval of your application. So that application is an important piece. We'll soon send you a link to it. It's a quick and easy jot form to fill out. But one of the important things on there is the language that we will use to set up your fund and its purpose. We want you to repeat that language in your fundraising material so it's very clear what the purpose is and what you're fundraising for. Remember, this is a forever thing. Very often we keep those initial fundraising documents that seeded the endowment because you'd be surprised in the future how people need to refer back to those. And we promise to work in partnership with you until your fundraising goal is met. Don't be afraid to set it a little higher because you have more time to meet your goal that way. All of our schools are encouraged to continue growing their endowment fund. So we have this immediate plan with this endowment challenge to try to get that money into your fund by the end of the year and raise that additional challenge money to go with it. But we hope that you'll use this challenge as a springboard for continued promotion of your endowment and cultivate those planned gifts for the long-term growth of your fund.
This really is an extraordinary opportunity that our bishop and diocese is offering to each one of our schools. When we first rolled it out at a principal meeting that I was at with Mark and the principals, the gentleman to my right looked at me and he said, "That's very generous." And he's right. There are not very many challenge campaigns that I've worked with that have had a $100,000 match that you can make the ratio any way you want. If your goal is 10,000, you're working with a 10 to 1. That's almost unheard of in the fundraising world. Many times 2 to 1 or even 3 to 1 are common, but we have got an extraordinary opportunity here and we just want to help you maximize and use it or leverage, as Terry mentioned, to the best of your ability. So what you're looking at here is the diocese and UPCF leadership letter. It is signed by both our bishop along with the president, Patricia Rudden. This should be included in your solicitation folder. It will be coming to you in your example one, along with other good information, such as the UPCF brochure if people have questions about it. How will it be invested? Is it a socially responsible tool? Has it been around? And those type of things which are answered, along with a handy question and answer sheet that goes into a great deal of depth. So you are not expected to have the answers. We're going to give you resources for them. And if they come up with, the prospective donor comes up with an answer that's not there, simply tell them you'll get back to them and give us a call, and we promise to answer you. I know that all calls in this office, we attempt to answer within 24 hours, and all gifts receive an acknowledgement within 48. That is simply our personal standard of best practices. And we encourage you to think about it and really adopt something along those lines too. It's a good idea to include your own customized printed material. You may have brochures that you can insert. Hopefully you've got a business card from your principal. I know I was talking about that last year when we first got started. It's just a great way to leave a contact information. So you may not have the solicitation folder with you, but you run into somebody at the local coffee shop on Saturday morning and they said, you know, my neighbor so-and-so was talking about this. You got any information? Give them your card. Tell them you'll get back to them. What's a good time? Some of our pastors have cards or simple ways to leave their information as well. Or you may have an asker, a professional in your business community that has their business card. Certainly put that in if they're the ones with the relationship with the prospect. The next slide looks at our endowment challenge flyer, front and back. Again, you're going to see very easily. I know it's too small for you to read all of it, but it's got a paragraph, a section that Mark is talking about, the charism and curriculum. We've got information there that comes from the school leadership. So you feel free to tweak it, but this has got a nice challenge gift explaining why and what it is we're asking for in a very nicely put together. Now you can put in your own pictures here. You can put in certainly your names and your school names and things like that. The gift cutoff card here at the bottom allows donors to choose from several options, and it also gives them the option of online or recurring gifts too. So the last template we're going to look at is a letter template. So there's hints in there telling you, you know, put it on your school letterhead. This is where you can fill in. So you're actually getting 5 different templates on your thumb drive. So this one is a particular one called a door opener letter. It might be one where you send it to somebody and you tell them, I'm going to call you back in the next, and you fill it in. Week, no more than 2 weeks. I don't want that letter to get lost and your reminder for you. And then put it on your calendar and make sure it does get followed up. So here's a letter, a door opener. You follow it up with a phone call, and during that phone call, you're going to ask for an appointment. That's what you want. You want a face-to-face time. Half hour, 45 minutes would be the max I would ask for in today's busy world. And if you sit around and linger over your coffee or over a goodie for over an hour just listening to that donor, you are building the rapport that's needed for effective stewarding of gifts for the future. So at this point, Terry's going to take questions and answers, and we hope we got some hands up, or maybe Angie can tell us if we've had any typed in and sent in that way. No, not tonight.
Nothing. No questions on the chat? Okay. We're going to close down. Oh, let me just mention this last slide. It's just contact information for all of us here at the diocese that are going to be helping with this challenge. You got a lot of staff working with you. Now we're going to close down the PowerPoint presentation, get you back on the view, and open it up for any questions that you might have.
Do you have any
Hi, good evening. It's Matt Flood.
particular approaches with multi-school?
Um,
You know, with cluster
Father Mike is asking, do we have any particular approaches or strategies for multi-parish
the
schools?
cluster schools.
The cluster schools
yeah.
that have it, yeah.
Because now we're dealing with 4 parishes in my place, you know, which is.
Yep, yep.
I
I
don't
think
want to see it
that,
all fall to one.
yeah,
issue.
yeah. The strategies that we use are going to work for those parishes as well. But I hear what you're asking, that there's a little bit different dynamics there because you have more leadership, you have more pastors there. So yeah, we'll need to work. We're going to work individually with each school so that we understand your unique circumstances better, and then we can make recommendations based on that too.
There's no reason why we couldn't have 4 sets of templates for a school so that each pastor has got their own. It's made to be that easy that truly each,
Yeah.
each pastor can have a kit and to be ready to go out with a principal for their particular prospective donors within their thing. We don't have to have one with just the delegate or anything like that.
Yeah.
We can help you with.
But you're going to want one
individual.
committee that coordinates all of that.
That's,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Have representatives or whatever. Yep.
Did someone else have a question? Matt.
Hi, good evening. It's
Matt?
Matt Flaw from Escanaba.
Hey, Matt?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. 2 questions. Currently, if a school has several fundraising activities going on already, and they're fortunate enough to be in a position where they could either reallocate funds, is there any issue with, for example, cutting a check to meet the challenge needs and then incorporating the campaign into a future effort or one of the existing efforts?
Yeah, that's a good question because for 2 reasons. All schools have multiple fundraising things going on, especially as a parish school, you have things coming up too. For example, when we tried to plan the kickoff of this, we tried to do it far enough away from September when we kick off UPSCA, because we try not to interfere too much with that UPSCA campaign in our parishes. But I think the other thing that you're asking, Matt, is that you have other fundraising things going on and you're in a position to simply make a gift or a transfer of money, reallocate resources, as I think what you said, in order to meet the minimum requirement, perhaps the $10,000 for this, and then get the gift. So of course that's an option, but we are really going to encourage schools to use this opportunity to raise new gifts to add to this endowment or create a new endowment. Remember the 3 goals of this challenge initiative? We're going to keep driving you back to those goals. So that's not a yes or no answer, Matt, but did it help you at all?
Yes, I think the question is just around timing. It's not if or when. It's more around the when would be the best use to fit it into the current schedule.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, that's good. And we'll work with you on that.
He had another question.
And one other quick question, hopefully. Is there a requirement if a donor wishes to remain confidential? Do we need to disclose those?
Yeah, that's a good question. So at the foundation and also at the diocese, we have a policy for anonymity, and we actually have 3 levels of that. Now, a school can borrow that policy from us, and you can use the same policy if your donor, depending on how anonymous the donor wants to be. So, for example, the highest level of anonymity is when nobody knows who the donor is. The gift comes through a professional advisor, like a bank trust officer or an attorney or a CPA. Nobody knows. That's the highest level. Then there's an intermediate level where the person receiving the gift, for example, myself as a development director, I sometimes receive gifts from donors who don't want the public to know about it. You know, I'm giving you this gift, but don't publish my name anywhere. That's a second level where you know who the donor is, so you can steward them, but you're not going to list their name on any published lists that you have. And then there's another level of anonymity where the person doesn't mind giving you the gift, but they really don't want anybody even within your organization to know that. So they might give it, it might come on a money order, for example. So even people depositing it and recording it don't know who the donor is. So the answer is yes. You know, the number one thing here is our donor and trying to meet their needs to give, but also matching their needs to give with the opportunity that we have. So we do everything we can to keep a donor anonymous if that's what they wish.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay.
I have a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, so why couldn't a school raise $10,000 for an existing endowment fund and receive a $100,000 gift for that existing endowment fund rather than start a new fund in the UPCF?
So if they have a fund in the UPCF, they could do that. But if the question is referring to an endowment that's existing outside of the UPCF, that does not fit the parameters of
Maybe
this
that's my
challenge.
question. Sorry. That came up at our school council meeting last night. So it's an endowment fund that's not part of the UPCF, and one of our school council members wanted to know why we couldn't raise $10,000 for our existing fund and have that $100,000 gift go into that existing fund. And you and I have discussed, I think you understand why I'm asking this question, or why it came up at our school council meeting last night.
Yeah, so the simple answer is it doesn't fit the parameters of this challenge. But the UPCF was created for that, Ren did a nice job in his introduction about the distinctively Catholic giving and administration of the UP Catholic Foundation. So there are other existing school funds out there, and many of them are functioning very well. And Bishop John's intention was that they don't need to merge in to the UPCF. They can continue operating as is. But any new endowment funds he wants established under the UP Catholic Foundation. And his specific challenge gift, the donor in this case is the diocese, and the bishop is saying he wants these funds established. He wants the challenge gift to go into the UPCF. So we need all the schools to have a designated fund in the UPCF for that to happen. And one of the benefits of that, one of the benefits of that we tend not to see because it's visionary, it's in the future, is being part of the UP Catholic Foundation broadens your field of awareness. People are going to be familiar with the UP Catholic Foundation, see funds on there. You might get gifts from people that you're not even aware of right now once you have a fund established in there.
No, that's a good answer, Terry. Thank you. I just didn't know how to answer it when it came up last night.
Yeah, and feel free when you're going to get questions when you're out there in the field, and answer them the best you can, but don't be afraid to come back to me or Renee and get more answers, or say, that's a good question, and I'd really like you to talk directly to Terry. And you might give them my business card and say, feel free to give her a call, or you might call me after the appointment and say, Terry, I just talked to this person, that's what their question is. Could you contact them and answer the question? I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Just a logistics question. Do the packets go to the pastor and the principal that you're going to mail out?
Yeah, the packets that Mark is talking about, we're going to have two things. You're going to get the jump drive with all the resources on. We were just going to send one to each school principal as a starting point.
Okay.
Then the folder is a prospect folder, and that is something that you would take with you on a visit. That's your case statement, all the reasons why the prospect would want to give to your school. We're going to just give you one of those. We're going to mail them out so you can see what it looks like, and you can start customizing your brochure in there. And then when we make our site visits, we'll bring you some more of those.
If you want to copy those, you can feel free. There's nothing that's blocked or passworded or anything. These are your resources, and you can use them. You can put it on a computer or a laptop. You can give it and copy to another jump drive that somebody has. It actually is less than a gigabyte if you want to know. And there's the presentation and the dialogue, like we're having here tonight. And so there's a lot that fit on it with only a gig of space. So.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Renee then to close.
I think I would just like to say in closing that all of us here at the diocese view our work as a ministry, as you do too, in your parishes, in your schools. And serving and supporting you is a privilege that we have as members of the Diocesan Curia. And I just want to say thank you for allowing us to be part of your ministry out and about. It is truly a gift that we are able to impact through you so many more. So it's doing your little piece. It's building that pyramid up and hopefully all the way up to heaven is what I'd like to see all of us building, and I'm sure the bishop as well too. So don't be afraid to use those resources of our names, our phone numbers, and our emails. because you know what? We create a team here. So there's team members on that list that include Mark's Department of Evangelization in Schools, the Administration and Finance Department that all of you are so closely walking hand in hand with, and then our Department of Stewardship and Development along with the Upper Peninsula Catholic Foundation. When funds are invested in that foundation, you can assure donors that things like justice and peace issues are being looked at in what we are investing in too. So there is a stewardship portion to where these funds are going to be safeguarded and invested with an eye toward keeping the Catholic Christian views and values of where our monies are invested to. That is a very comforting thing for a lot of people. You know, we're not out there
Is that
investing.
in our investment pool?
Yeah, social
It is.
responsibility.
Yes, social responsibility is. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
It's an important one. Yeah. Because I think most groups today, even if they're stewarding an endowment gift and it's in the XYZ Foundation, you don't really have the time to look through those big prospectus and find it, you know, but buried down in there might be a Reynolds Corporation that's promoting tobacco for our kids to start. We don't really want to have our funds in a group that doesn't align with our values and our things. So you can rest assured that those things are all being looked at and managed by a Catholic board. So I would like to end this holy time together tonight by invoking our Blessed Mother Mary with the Hail Mary and Glory be as we end. In the name of the Father and Son and Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Hail Mary,
Full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women,
and
and
blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
God bless. Remember,
Thank
we
you.
ended on that word forever. It's just like the endowment challenge.
Thank you, everybody.
Good
night, everyone.